Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another video. Today I have something a bit on the serious side, and it's in regard to mental health. I am going to be going over some things that I'd like to share with you all, and give a bit of harsh truth in my personal opinion. And it may make some people mad, and they may not like what I'm saying, but I still feel like it needs to be said anyway. So I'm going to share a few things, like I said, such as this article that you will see on screen right now due to my crappy editing, and it is titled, "A Third of Americans Report Anxiety or Depression Symptoms During the Pandemic." I will link the article in the description below so you can find the full article. But getting down to the important stuff, as you will see on screen right now, it states that people in general, but especially those under the ages of 18 through 25 are really depressed about this. And not only them, the chart continues up through the ages with over 35% of the Americans who have received part in this little survey claiming to have some form of depression. Now, just stopping there and getting on to the next segment, which may trigger people, it's going to come down to what's happening and how people cope with it, as well as myself, for example. Now, like I said, this may be triggering to people, but personally, when it comes down to this, I'm not nearly as bothered by others, but I do understand, where the feeling of annoyed, of being, concerned and whatnot, and annoyed about it, I understand where that comes from. And, personally, in my eyes, where I feel I feel like this kind of feeling about it is due to the American dream brainwashing. How many of you guys have heard, the classical American dream in school? Over the years, America has been portrayed as this land of opportunity where all things are possible and whatnot. But, when people say all things are possible, people tend to leave out the possibility for, you know, all things, not just positive things, but unfortunate things as well, negative things. People tend to leave that out. They're like, all things are possible in America, but apparently we're going to forget about, stuff like viruses and, you know, natural catastrophes and whatnot. They tend to leave that out. And, due to the school system in general, as well as, people like officials and whatnot giving their little motivational speeches and whatnot, and they leave stuff out, the young people, they usually don't hear about this, and so, when they are, encountered by this, by the fact that this is reality and whatnot, and you have ups and downs, they usually really, really, really do not, they're just not prepared for this. They are not prepared in any way, shape, or form. Especially in today's day and age. I mean, look around, people. People just feel like, well, we'll just deny reality because I don't agree with it. I feel like I'm different, and so you need to accept that my feeling is what's going to be the truth and not reality. But you see, when it comes down to COVID, there is a problem that you can't dismiss with censorship and political correctness. You can't just feel like it's not going to affect people and therefore there's no problem. It is still affecting people, and people have died from this. Now, albeit it's not nearly as crazy as people portray it as, but it is in fact happening, and there's no censoring a virus to the point where it's like, okay, well, I better stay censored so I'm going to stop affecting people. That's not how reality works, you see. And due to the fact that people have been trained to do that, to just cancel, and just this cancel culture and censorship and whatnot, when they see a problem that they can't do that, they literally just do not have any way to cope. And since, once again, education system and all these, motivational speakers and these public officials and Paula Crappens say, oh, this is a wonderful land, a land of opportunity and whatnot, but we're never going to leave out the tough times. Excuse me, we're always going to leave out the tough times, and we're never going to show you the fact that, yeah, you'll go through stuff. These people are just, since they don't hear about this stuff, they just are convinced in their minds that rough times should not be happening, and this is just not what's supposed to be happening. Or should I say rough times shouldn't be happening in America? Which is going to bring me to my next segment of the video. When one refers to suffering and whatnot in other countries, a lot of Americans usually tend to immediately dismiss something as, oh, that's just something that happens there. That just happens in another country and whatnot. You know, whether it's a swarm of locusts terrorizing crops in Africa, or poverty on a huge scale in somewhere like Honduras, people will dismiss it and try and move it out of their minds, claiming, oh, I just don't want to think about it. And, they're putting it out of their minds and not thinking about it because, they really don't understand the severity and the extent of that said situations. Well, now there's no doing that, you see, because it's right at your front door. You see, now we have a global pandemic that, in all honesty, if I'm being completely honest, once again, the government is blowing it completely out of proportions. It's a problem, yes, but it's not nearly as big of a problem as, they make it out to be. If you honestly look at the people who are honest about it and support statistics and whatnot. Yet, at the end of the day, this is really, really impacting people, and it's impacting everyone, And Americans, like I said, when you see this kind of chart, they're getting impacted to the point where, they're thinking about just committing suicide, sadly. But this is where I need to say this. As far as I'm concerned, I feel like this is, again, the fault of the education system. Because, it's your job to educate the people about the world and about life and about actual important things that will happen in life. Why is it so hard to just give someone the full truth? Why do you need to give them this half-truth where, oh, it's just this wonderful land of cupcakes and roses and you can accomplish anything and whatnot? And listen, that's good. That's good to motivate people. That's good to inspire these people, but give them the full truth. Give them the fact that you are going to have hard times in life. What is so difficult about saying that? It's bad enough if you had hard times in life, but thank God for America because we're blessed with the tools that other countries really just don't have. Can you imagine the mortality rate of COVID if we did not have access to modern medicine? Well, that's a huge reality for other places. You see what I mean? That is a huge reality for other places. Without modern medicine and stuff like that, not just COVID, but diseases in general, the mortality rate is so much more higher. For example, if there was a quote-unquote plague of Black Plague right now, if Black Plague was to pick up right now, we could treat that so much more effectively. That's not to say that people wouldn't pass away, but we could really, really, really bring down that mortality rate compared to during the days where it was actually, the virus killing everything. Due to modern medicine, we can bring that down, and yet, people aren't thinking about that. They're not thinking about the blessings that we have. They're not thankful about this. They're just convinced we're going through a bad time, despite the fact that we have tools to counter it. And I'm angry because, as far as I'm concerned, I am just not supposed to be going through this. I should not be going through this. That's pretty much the mentality overall. And for me, the way I see this is just an overall sense of entitlement. That's pretty much the bluntest way I could possibly put it. This is just an overall sense of entitlement, and that right there is the downfall of this said generation. And when I say generation, don't think I'm just referring to younger people. I'm referring to this modern group of people that have been introduced to the kind of cultures and whatnot, and they've allowed those kinds of ideologies to be ingrained in their mind. And as like I said, the American dream culture is this sense of entitlement to this perfect life without any form of suffering and struggles and hardships at all, which is not reality. And that's exactly why I genuinely feel like this is really showing you, now that we are going through pretty much a global tribulation in a way of this virus, which is nowhere near as bad as something else, like a famine, for example. This is really just showing you this generation's mental state and how, unfortunately, we have trained some very, very mentally fragile people. If they are going to fall apart every time they go through a situation, that's really tough. That's tough. Because life is full of hardships. So if your solution to everything is to just get depressed and just start considering suicide, how does one even begin to face life if my solution to every problem that comes along is to blow my brains out? You see what I mean? And right before anyone says, TCD, you just don't get it, you just don't know what's going on in my life, you are completely correct, okay? I don't know what you're going through, nor do you really know what I'm going through. But I can assure you that you are not the first one, nor will you be the last one, to go through what you're going through. There are millions of people that have went through what you're going through, and you have people to relate to if you seek out the help. And due to the fact that this virus, once again, and this is America, there's plenty of people that you can relate to right now in regards to, like, the whole depression or whatnot in the mental health. There's plenty of people that you can relate to right now. Trials and tribulations are a part of life, whether you want to accept that or not. That does not stop it from being true. I know that, once again, like modern culture and, like, technologically advanced cultures like to convince you that we're somehow in control of everything, and we can do anything, and we can do a lot, but we're not in complete control. Like, look at this virus, for example. We're not in complete control. We are not in control of circumstances. Certain circumstances can just come along and boom, there's just not much we can do about it. We didn't control that. We didn't determine that. A baby doesn't determine, like, where it's going to be born. It doesn't decide, all right, well, let me put this like a video game screen and I'll just pick Noble class. That's not how that works. There are just certain circumstances that we do not have control of. So instead of feeling like we have complete control over it, we need to accept the fact that, first of all, we do not have control over it, but we are in control of how we respond to those set circumstances. So I encourage you right now to please, if you're one of these people, humble yourself down and do not approach this situation with the entitled mentality of, like, this like brainwashing of American perfection, where you don't go through any hardship at all and you're not supposed to ever suffer and go through pain and stuff like that. You gotta have the sweet and the sour, folks. It's not just, it's not just all cupcakes and roses and fairies. There's a bit of pointy thorns to get down to the good stuff. So you do have to go through that. I know that's a bad analogy, but it is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? I'm sure that you're getting the point. Feeling like you shouldn't ever go through hardship is just not the way to approach life. What you can do is you can take that said hardship and you can use it as a way to relate to the millions around you who go through hardships every day. And when we do finally pull through this and, whatnot, and we see, quote-unquote normalcy, because I'm sure that, things will be different and whatnot. That should, I hope, motivate you to try and do something about the others, now that you've seen stuff like this firsthand up close. Because, once again, like COVID and stuff like this isn't anything new. Viruses, famines and stuff, people suffer all the time. And instead of us treating it like the whole American thing, where we're just like, oh, well, that's them, maybe this gives you a really good look into how other people feel around the world about these kinds of issues, and maybe you can use this experience and say, listen, in the short time that I've been going through this, that was terrible, so let's try and do something to help other people, Let's use that as a way to, like, put some fire under that kettle to get us motivated to do something about that. So, with that being said, this is going to conclude this episode of Wake Up People. I know that I was probably pretty harsh, but hey, sometimes you just gotta tell it like it is, and I hope that you got something like this. But please do not feel like I'm glad that people are going through this and that we are going through this and whatnot. All I am saying is I'm just using this situation to judge where my faith is and what matters to me, and I really hope that you are doing the same. As always, rate the video what you think of the rest, tell me what you want to see in the future in the comments below. Feel free to check out my amino, it will be linked in the comments, as well as my BitChute linked in the About Me page of my channel, and I will see you all next time. Take care, stay safe, and God bless.